most of you actually complain too much. That is why your faith is always weak. You understand? And because of that thing brings about spiritual amnesia. And I'm sure you've not heard this, but let me explain what I mean. When things are going bad in a man's life, and there are so many patterns of maybe discouragement and disappointment, we start complaining so much that, we forget the good things God has done. And because of that, we start bringing up a new pattern of, forgetfulness in the good deeds of the Lord. You understand? And also because of that, your faith now starts going weary and you start going very weak. Now, let me explain it in a spiritual context. Now, let's go to, Psalm 77. You see that the writer there in the beginning was weary, but at the ending, it says, I will remember the good deeds of the Lord, or the good works of the Lord. It says that you remember what God has done. And that's a personal hack I use for myself. And it says that when things are going bad for me, I always tell myself that, Christian, this complaint that you're making now, can't you remember before when you're asking God for this, He gave you this. When you're asking God for this position, He gave you this. When you're asking God for this client, He gave you this. I use that as a means to actually energize myself for the season I am in. You understand? But most people don't do that. Let's speak about David. When David was about to fight Goliath, he said that I fought the bear, I fought the lion, and the Lord who gave me victory over them will give me victory over Goliath. That was David also trying to remember what God has done before even going to the next level. Let me also explain with the Israelites. There was a mistake the Israelites did. When there was a lot of problem, what did they say? They said God has abandoned us. Meanwhile, they forgot what God has done for them. God removed them from the captivity of the Egyptians. You understand? But they forgot that. And we all know what happened to the Israelites because they forgot what God has done. You understand? It is normal to have different patterns of discouragement and disappointment in your life. You understand? This is the world we live in. You understand? But there's a greater thing you can do, thereby remembering the good deeds of the Lord. By the time you remember those things, He gives you a sense of alignment, in the sense that, oh, God did not fail me before, He cannot fail me now. It might just take a little time. We also need to understand that, the God that remembered you before is still the same God that's going to remember you in your due time. You understand? So don't try to also forget that. And sometimes faith is not always about believing or expecting things. Sometimes faith is always remembering what God has done before, so that, the next thing that is coming, you are more prepared for it.